there's never been certainty. We just thought there was.
Right.
So if we're in a place of catastrophizing or worrying about the future, another way to spin it is like, what do I want the future to look like?
Spit that shit out, man! Now it's time to flip the script.
We're very fortunate to have our friend Honey Trabitz on. And Honey is a life coach and a good friend of ours, and someone who we met a couple of years ago through another friend. Shout out to the Schmiedemans. Right. And Mickey went out with Diana, and because she was meeting you for dinner. And when she came back that night, Mickey said, "You've got to meet this girl. You're going to love her." And first of all, we call everybody girl. We don't say lady, because that means that, white hair and white gloves.
What's wrong with white hair?
Nothing on you.
Okay.
Buddy.
Thanks, man.
And I said, "Well, what about her?" And she said, "I don't know. You just have to meet her. You're going to recognize her." He's like, "You're going to recognize her right away." And of course, so we met, and she was right. We were just recognized each other, I think, right away. And I think it's maybe some
kindred. It was very
kindred spirits, right? Some life stories with some similarity, and then we're also in Club Florida together. I like your story, and so I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about your story, about how Honey Trabitz wound up where she is right now. I love the way it starts. So I want to start it off with, your dad asked you what you want to be when you grow up, and your answer was
happy. It was I mean, I think that on some level, and I think the older I get, the farther down the road when I'm looking back, sometimes it's revisionist history, but, we come in and we're all so unique, and there's so much vibrancy when you see in small children. They're so confident. They know what they want. They don't second guess themselves. They don't get in their head as much. I mean, when they're really little, and that there's such a joy there until the world starts pointing to them like, we don't do this, we don't do that. Hey, this is what a good boy looks like. This is what a good girl looks like. And we can get lost, right? We start following this path, like this is the way you're supposed to go. And and again, this could be revisionist history, but I always had this sense looking around that something was off, and I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew that I didn't want, so I just assumed that I was kind of unconventional. I didn't want what I consider conventional things. I just wanted to be alive, like really just to be in the experience of it. And so my path has always been pretty windy. I skipped a grade and started early, so I didn't go to kindergarten, and I graduated high school at 16. And so it was kind of like, well, what do you do? Where do you go? I knew I was going to go to college. So I bounced around. I went to several schools, and then it was kind of like whenever an opportunity would come up, and if it excited me, I would go and do it. And so, that took me to New York. After a little, I stopped over in Pensacola, had a little bartending gig when I was finishing up college, and went to New York, and was very fortunate to sort of stumble into work at MTV and VH1. And it was like this motley circus. Like, we just traveled around, and it was a bunch of people coming together with their specializations. And we got to travel, and we got to listen to great music. But it was less about what we were doing, but more about who we were doing it with, for me anyway. Yeah, then I found my way to California, and I dropped into I got very fortunate. I ended up in events, and then ended up working for a company called Salesforce, which is a great company. And all the things were looking good. I should have been over the moon, but it just wasn't in alignment. And so for me, it just was discovering life coaching, the program in the Bay Area. It's called Coactive Training. And from the minute I walked into the first course, it was just like a home. It felt like being plugged into something. And I didn't look back. I trained, and I did that for about a year and a half. Went on to do a leadership program, and I left Salesforce, and I struck off on my own and left San Francisco and started moving further and further into the woods. I was like, I'll just go up into the mountains. I'll grow a beard. It'll be lovely. And
how's that beard going?
Oh yeah, it's like we don't talk about. But I got up there and I had this idea that I would be like meditating and I would be levitating and it would be amazing. And instead, I was like, oh, I miss people.
Right.
I really, really miss people. And so that was a little bit of a aha, because I think that we keep confronting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm maybe getting off track. And then I had always wanted to be in Portland, or always, I should say, probably for 20 years, I had been wanting to make my way to Portland. An old boyfriend had come on a drive-through. It just sounded really good. And I just kept putting it off. And then finally, it was like I had no other excuses. I'm like, I can do my work from anywhere. And I came up here and it just struck a chord. And I was like, okay, this is home for now. And then who knows where I go from here. But Portland was great. And now I'm outside of Portland in Oregon City.
Yeah.
Neighbor, you're just across the bridge.
Yeah, we're a stone's throw away.
Yeah. I got a dog. And I have to say that, when you do work that you love, I'm not going to be a cliche and say, you never work a day in your life. It's not that. But when you're doing work that really feels aligned, there's just such an expansiveness to it. I love what I do. And I've been doing it since I was a little kid. I'm the one that on this airplane, somebody who's 60 years older than me is sharing about all the things. And you're like, is this appropriate? I don't know.
Right.
But it's definitely an alignment. So that's basically the journey. Honey from Niceville. Good.
I love Honey from Niceville.
That's a true city in Florida too. You really are
that's
from
Niceville. Yeah, that's where she grew up. Yeah.
Oh, they moved me there when I was 4. I mean, it would be one thing if I had, hippie parents who named me Honey in Niceville. Oh no, they were like, we're really going to do a number on this one.
Right. So were you ever? It seems to me, looking from the outside, that you're very accepting of like, this is what I do now and this is where I am now. But making that shift, I like how you say at a certain point when you're in California and working a great job and making a great living and buying great things, your Pinterest page was full of cabins in the woods and campfires.
Yeah.
But your life looked more stereotypically LA. And was it ever frightening though to make that jump, or did you find it really easy that saying, no, this is not in alignment with me, and therefore I'm going to find something that is in alignment, or did those expectations, those societal expectations of what you should want, really play on you?
That's a great question. I think it's probably a combination of, it's like a yes and. I mean, I remember when my friend invited me to come move to New York, and it was like about 6 to 8 months. I just sort of like, maybe. And then just one day, I just knew and threw stuff in a box and, wound up in the West Village. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have money, and it worked out. Other people might look and go, oh, that was so brave, but it didn't just happen. It was kind of like I was slowly moving towards something. And the same thing in San Francisco, where even when I was, what I'm calling dissatisfied, I had wonderful friends. I had a really vibrant life, but it's like, you're just not in the groove. Like it's not really like a rock in the shoe, but just something is out of alignment and you just can't quite put your finger on it. And I think that it's a process of elimination, and it's different for everybody. Some people are very clear. I was also oriented more towards showing up for other people. Like, hey, can I make this group of people happy? What can I do to liven the mood or, make people feel it? So I wasn't as focused on how it was sitting for me. And so when I really started spending more time checking in with myself, then it was like, okay, this is where this is. When your attention is outside of you, it's very easy to sort of stumble along and go, whoa, hey, how did I get here? How did I get here?
Honey, I don't think most people really even think about it. I don't. You said most people, or some people are clear. Honestly, I think there's very few people that actually even think about it. They're just doing what society tells them they ought to be doing.
Yeah, here's the map. There's that great line that Joseph Campbell said that if you see the path laid out before you, it's not your path.
Uh-huh.
And so this idea that, check, graduate from high school, check, go to a good school, check, assuming, privilege that you're able to do these things. And it's like, oh, now you should get married. Oh, have kids. Oh, and start moving through. And then people can find themselves in the middle of their life going, wait a minute. Isn't there like the Talking Head song? It's like, and I ask myself,
Yeah, that's right.
where you're looking around and you're like, well, wait,
this is not my beautiful house.
Where did the time go?
Yeah.
Right. This is not my, and so to be able to check in. So it's, it's a great point, Marty. I think that, I'm a believer that the body is a great communicator, and we're so mind oriented in our society that, if it makes sense, like this is the practical thing to do. And the whole time you're like, yeah, I mean, I had an ulcer when I was making that decision, or, I felt little. But we numb ourselves to the body, and we also use all of these other outside, either substances or streaming television. And again, those things in and of themselves don't necessarily have to be, air quotes, bad. But it's like, how are we using it? If you're enjoying a great show, wonderful. But if you're doing it because you're just needing to numb something or separate yourself, that's a problem.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I remember a conversation with Jack Kerouac and I think Allen Ginsberg, and they were hiking around and just being vagabonds, and they were walking down the street at night, and they looked and there was a picture window and a family in there eating dinner, or no, it looked like they had finished dinner, and they were all gathered around the TV, and whomever he was speaking to said to Kerouac, "Look at those people. They're just not even aware of anything. They're just mindlessly, going about their business." And Kerouac looked at him and says, "You know what? You don't know that for sure. And frankly, they're not hurting anybody. So maybe they're just on their paths too. So
for me, when I, even in my work, when we're standing, like people are the experts in themselves, right? Like I could look over and go, oh, I think I have a great idea for what that person could be doing. But we all know what contracts us and what expands us, right? And so much of how we see the world is a perspective, right? Like even saying things like, we're socially isolated, that can feel really heavy, and somebody can, feel disconnected and all of a sudden alienated, and then that just sort of breeds, a whole slew of things, right? There's an energy to that versus, oh, this is a time to go inward, to help my community, to spend some time with myself, spend some time with my family, my feelings, my whatever that looks like. And that might have a different feel, right? But,
yeah, you made me think of that just, 3 minutes ago when you said it's when we have all the distraction outside of us, it can be hard to spend time with ourselves. And, I definitely, I have felt that, being in places where there's a lot of distraction or a lot of things that my ego is attaching to. And, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you, other than the fact that I love you and love talking to you right now. I wanted to have you on because this is a really special time in society. It's a unique time, and it's a time where for many people, they've been forced to slow down. And now that can be very threatening, certainly financially, what the future holds, security. But it can also have an element of opportunity and being forced to slow down. I've talked to so many people, and this has been our experience as well, who have said, I'm like taking walks with my family every day at the end of the day. And we're just playing games and we're spending time together, and there's no need to be here or there, that commitment, this commitment. And it's really got me thinking, what they're describing sounds so much more human and kind and healthy to me that it's really got me thinking, well, what were we living for before? The version of life that is what's normal, quote unquote, to us seems to have us, so many of us, disconnected. And suddenly now we're finding this kind of, amongst the horrible that is COVID-19, there are these little pleasant pockets of things people are discovering here and there, just being together.
And also some challenges. It's interesting because with zero distractions, I find myself so in my head right now, and like I have a confluence of things on me right now that distractions actually were probably helping maybe in a superficial way, but a major surgery, a sick elderly mother that needed care, a move, a divorce, a job, all this stuff piling up. And then now all this freedom to just think about that. And then the financial ramifications that are concomitant with some of those things. And it's
destabilizing.
It's destabilizing. And it's this, I don't feel like it's the best thing for me right now. I mean, I need to figure it out. I need to figure out how to settle down and being with AJ and the family is certainly a big help. Yeah, I don't know what I'd be doing otherwise. I might be in that cabin with a long beard, just
writing a manifesto,
pawing at the air. And also, I wanted to clarify on that Kerouac reference. What I was doing was doubling down on what you said, which is that just because a family is enjoying a dinner and a TV show doesn't mean that they're not in tune with their path or anything like that. That to not judge that superficially. So I agree with you about that. But what AJ said is so impactful and so spot on with what an opportunity we have to get in touch with ourselves, to slow down, to be more mindful, for the earth to almost heal, and for us to heal with it. And it's not happening for me that much as I wish it was.
Or maybe it is, but it's in a hidden way. Marty. Sometimes it feels difficult, that process.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, listen, I'm no expert. I'm just throwing stuff on the wall, but
that's why I'm waiting to hear what Honey says. Getting some free advice. Well, I get free advice from AJ all the time. And I appreciate it.
Very wise.
He is very actually. Wise. He's a shaman. I call him the shaman AJ. That's because he makes me feel so shamed all the time.
You guys are brothers. One of the things I think that you're highlighting is, what I'm hearing and what you're saying is that there's this spaciousness, and then you have all of these very real, just one of those things on its own. If you look at, a major surgery or, a sick relative or a divorce or a move, like these are huge things in and of themselves. And then you compound them. And then they say it's almost like being sent to your room to think about it, right? Like it could feel like a punishment. And so, one of the things that I know for myself, and I see it in my work, or I apply it in the work, is, all of these thoughts, they say emotions are, energy in motion, right? Like these, your thoughts have a quality to them. So when you're sitting there and ruminating and they're just going around and around and you don't have a way to process them, either like talking to AJ, sounding it out, just to be able to get some relief, just to be able to sort of talk it through, to ruminate, there's a way that we can get it we get stuck in a story, but to really just sound out what's here for you. And then if you're on your own, I love the writing practice by Julia Cameron. Have you guys heard of Morning Pages?
Yeah, I have. I read her book, The Artist's Way, years ago.
Yeah. And so it's just that, when you get up first thing in the morning, if you're able to, you really can do it any time, but in the morning when you're just sort of, all your thoughts are a little swirly, you're just coming out of a deep sleep, and to be able to put pen to paper and just write without picking up the pen, and just write for 3 pages.
Before reading the news, before anything can infect
before
your
anything.
day.
Great idea.
You're just purging. It's really just, and it's not to, look for kernels for the great American novel. It's really just about getting out what might be swirling in your head. There are a lot of great prompts. You can just say something like, in this moment, or, and if you're stuck, you just write, I'm stuck, and you just keep going. This isn't about, being thoughtful and trying to form good sentences or about punctuation or anything. You're really just letting it flow.
And you just don't, you don't stop you don't stop until you hit 3 pages, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can do it as a practice, like every morning you can actually, get a journal or, a stack of paper and just make it a practice every morning. You just have the notebook by your bed and a pen and you just do the purge. And it doesn't have to be like, huge paper. You can do, a small notebook. It's not supposed to be something that's like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? It maybe takes 15 minutes, but it's a way to clear your mind. And sometimes as you're going, you're like, all of a sudden you're surprised by things that are coming up. Like, oh, whoa, I didn't know that was there.
That's a great, I've read that practice before. And actually I have a journal. I mean, I have the book. I haven't journaled yet and I've been staring at it.
Yeah.
But you're not, this is going to be a unique challenge because I'm a retired FBI agent and I start writing things down and I start getting fearful or I'm fearful of, I'm expressing my true feelings on papers. This is going to end up in somebody's hands, like maybe a defense attorney.
But you could burn it at the end of each session.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It could be a catharsis.
Or in this time, perhaps emergency toilet paper stash.
Well, yeah, and that'd probably be what those thoughts were worth. But no, and I say that. I'm exaggerating. I mean, it's obviously not. I mean, it's something that it does pop into my mind. And it makes me chuckle a little bit. But when I was not retired, I definitely was very mindful of anything I ever wrote down or typed. And it was just that weird sort of, that I love that environment in which I worked and I loved that career. I really did. I was passionate about it, but it makes you circumspect about certain things like that. It just, the whole culture is that way. And it's really a challenge to break free from that. Even just doing this podcast and expressing some of my feelings that I know are going out to millions of people on the millions of people on the internet. We just passed Joe Rogan in downloads. And
watch out.
So, it's a little intimidating.
But like I said, you could burn them.
Able to know that.
I like that burning idea because that can be kind of cathartic too. But
yeah, for sure. Make sure you're not using that as a reason, as an out, right, of not to do them, because it can feel like a drag. I've got to do this. It's easy to talk yourself out of that kind of stuff.
Oh, I can talk myself out of anything productive.
And put it on the paper. Say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. This is, nonsense. Why should But there's some accountability there too that, I find can be supportive of, like, even if you're going to see AJ in the morning, like if you guys have coffee or you're in there, they can like check in with each other and be like, hey, did you do it? And
yeah, we were doing that for a while. And then when COVID kind of changed everybody's routine, it's a little more challenging now, but it's a great idea.
We had a thing, which I haven't talked to you. I mean, we haven't sat down and had a really long conversation in way too long, honey. But back in October, Marty and I actually had what wound up being the pleasure of doing an ayahuasca circle together. And
I heard a little bit about that. I was listening to one of your podcasts. So I'd love to hear more about it.
Okay. And it was, I mean, for me personally, it was one of the most healing experiences of my life, and just really showed me how much my ego was coloring my life, the way I looked at things, the way I judged things. It was just this ego chirping in my ear, constantly trying to protect itself. And this was such an experience of dissolving that away. It's very powerful. But yeah, one of the things was, then applying that in your everyday life going forward, and meditating and checking in and doing that with a good friend that I've known for 20 years was really cool, because we could check in with each other and, to keep connected with that experience. I think it's very valuable.
Well, so many times when you do something that's really life altering, and if you haven't done it, like, to come back and not be able to really share it, you can tell people what an experience was like. But, I jumped out of a plane and I can talk about it. But the people I did it with, they were there real time and we're all in the sensory experience of it. So to be able to do something, and while I'm sure you both had your own version of the experience,
for sure, very much,
you still have that connection about, it's like a shorthand that other people might intellectually understand. Like, you both could tell me about your experiences. I could be like, oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I won't have, since I haven't done it, I can only imagine what that's like.
Right.
So that's great that you guys have each other in that.
Yeah, and it really turned out to be, even now I was telling Marty I can go for a run, and it sounds so, woo-woo cliche, but just some of the things that have become normal to us. And you talk about this quite a bit in your Instagram feed, which I'd encourage anybody to follow, because I love the stuff that you write and share, and the things that become normal to us that really are miraculous, like these living beings growing out of the earth that are hundreds of years old. And, it's just normal. If you were plopped down here, had never been on this planet before, and were plopped down, if you grew up on Mars, let's say, you would be blown away by the life that surrounds you, and much of it life that we don't really recognize as sentient life. And I know that starts to sound out there, and I would have thought that it's out there, before this experience. But even now I can connect with that, and it just brings such a smile to my face that I find is really helpful in times like this as well, that there's a bigger truth and shared experience out there.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look, there's a guy whose name's Philip. I'm trying to blank on his last name.
Is it Philip Roth?
He wrote Radical Wholeness. And
Radical Wholeness?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he talks about sort of the intelligent systems and how, even when you look at our buildings, it's like, the prime real estate is the penthouse. It's the top, right? We're very mentally oriented, like use your mind, a good mind, high intelligence. And yet our whole body has, we have intelligence in our gut. This was something I had never heard before.
Yeah.
But that they said sometimes in aging, like let's say, somebody in their 60s, 70s, and they start getting signs of dementia, and then they find out they have a urinary tract infection, mm-hmm. and that there's a correlation with how their mind is operating because something is off in their other system. And so when you look at being a part of the natural world, when you see that the cycles, right, the seasons, like eating seasonally, we get so spoiled because we eat whatever we want, mm-hmm. whatever we want, strawberries year round.
Yeah, right.
To be able to be I'm growing. I have my first garden, and I, plant seeds, and I have a little heat lamp, and I look and I'm like, oh my God, I'm making a cucumber. No, I'm not. It's growing. I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's like, it's whatever we give our attention to, and we really can get, if we slow down enough to be able to think like, whoa, this is life. This is nature. And we're a part of it.
Exactly. A part of it. Yeah. We oftentimes see ourselves as separate from it. Even people that love to go to places like Yosemite and whatnot, it's so gorgeous mm-hmm. and special, but it can feel like you're walking into a museum that is to be kept mm-hmm. pristine for good reason. But you don't necessarily walk away with a sense of, I'm a part of that, which we are.
And honey, I have a good buddy who lives in Tokyo, and he said somebody's making like a gazillion dollars by literally taking people that live in the city out to the woods, and I think they call it nature forest bathing. Yeah, it's like, what the hell? And they just walk through the woods in peaceful quietude.
Yeah, to just take it in. I was leading a group, and that's what we did. We had a retreat, and just taking it's really about the sensory experience, like looking at how the light is moving through the trees, and as it moves through, as time goes, or slowing down, finding something. I remember one of the most impactful things that had happened to me. I was doing this leadership program, and they sent us out to go into nature just on our own. They said, just go somewhere on the property. We'll call you when we're done. And I remember laying there, and I was laying on my stomach on this bench, and all of a sudden a spider dropped down like right in front of me. It was just, the timing was impeccable. It dropped down, and I watched a spider make an entire web. And I was, because they never called it. And if you really look at the intricacies, or like in the morning when the dew is on a web, magic.
It's gorgeous.
Absolutely gorgeous. And all it takes is a slowing down and taking a pause and acknowledging it. It doesn't have to be, it's not heavy lifting. It's just noticing everything from, especially in this time, like the forest bathing aspect. Like if you go and just sit by a plant or a tree and just slow your breath, just count, like I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm part of here. Imagining, you had roots that were dropping down. Everything from your blood pressure is flowing. You're getting calmer. I mean, it doesn't take very much. Like if you stepped out and took 5 deep breaths outside and came back in, like let's say you were having an argument with somebody and you removed yourself and took some deep breaths and just your nervous system will be calming down before you go back in. And so it really is all available to us. And, people can be in the city and they go, oh, I don't have access. It's like there's like a little tree planted here or a little something. You can always find something that can, you don't have to be, on some huge acreage. But I love that you brought that up. It's like forest bathing, planting things, anything that will ground you, but also in your body. And so what you were saying, or what I make up about what you were saying, Marty, is like you were in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
And do you notice when you're up there, are you even aware of the rest of your body? Like when you're in your thoughts, do you all of a sudden like feel like it's separate? Like you could almost take your head off and put it on the table?
Yes, I feel that way. And even if I'm stressing about, like those last few months with the confluence of all these things were really coming to a head with this sequestration and the shutdown. So AJ and Mickey they've seen the worst of me already. It's no joke. But
it's all good and close friends.
Human of you.
Yeah. That's right.
Even if I'm stressing about like the pollen touching my sinuses, and I'll say to AJ, I mentioned that like a couple times today. It's like, you mentioned it 9 times today, Marty. just so you know, I don't care, but just so you know. But so even if I'm stressing about like my sinuses, which I've had trouble with over the years, you're right. I mean, I'm so literally in my head that I could take it off and I'm not listening to my body.
Yeah. Well, and part of this is like when we start realizing that we are sensory beings, right? That we're not just these walking heads, or talking heads, as it were. And so in those moments, if you're able to, it's like, even if you can create an ambiance, right? Where you're in your thoughts, right? You're having your feelings, and let's say whatever it is, like if you could imagine, like what's a soothing environment for you?
Well, like woods and nature, and actually I like lighting, like different kinds of lighting, mostly the reds and the oranges and the yellows.
So to be able to create an ambiance where you're not making your body will respond to it, right? Yeah. Everybody, like we respond to color, we respond to, music, like to be able to have either, a music that really like pumps you up if you're feeling a little heavy, or if you're just trying to sort of calm down. So imagine that if you had something melodic or, meditative playing in the background, it doesn't have to be loud. And let's say you have red and orange lights and you've just come in from being in the trees and you sat down and you have your thoughts. I would imagine that the energy and the way your body would feel is that you wouldn't be as charged, right? Because it's hard to sort of amp up when everything else is calm.
Yeah,
but if you're in a really agitated place, it's a lot easier to spin out because all of a sudden you're like, what's grounding you? So to be able to, I had put this in the post, it's like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you just look around and go, what are 5 things that I see right now? Or what are 4 things I can feel? It's like, oh, I feel the chair underneath me. I can feel the table, next to me, or I can feel, and so you start naming it, like 3 things that I hear. And it just, again, orients you in the space. 2 things that I smell, 1 thing that I taste. And all of that is just, it only takes long enough for you just to drop back into your body with the breath. And you can have those thoughts, having them or not, it's not a bad thing to have. It would be kind of silly not to have them. You have a lot going on. There's the ruminating aspect, but then there's also this catastrophizing that we can do because, our illusion of control has just been wiped out.
Yeah. And
we never had control. We've never had control, but we had the illusion of it because there were a lot of things that we could count on, and so when we go into this place of like trying to get control, we're jumping way ahead and going like, what if I never sell my house? What if I never sell? I'm going to be living under a bridge. And we can go and spin out, oh, I'm here alone with my dog. Oh my God, what if I'm here for 2 years? I'm going to die. We can go there. And so this is a way of like, that doesn't serve anybody. All that does is heighten, because your body doesn't know that that's not happening, right? You're telling it it's happening. And all of a sudden, your nervous system is getting really anxious. So to be able to find the balance between being with the feelings that you're having or the thoughts that you're having, any anxiety that you may be having, ground yourself, do the writing practice, talk to a friend, calm your environment. But then to keep yourself from spinning out and going too far ahead. Does that resonate?
It does.
The difference between being with things.
Yeah. And I'm actually just thinking, I've got some lights and I'm going to get the music set up and going to organize my space a little bit. And I've got this, AJ and I planted a whole bunch of winter garlic a few months ago. And I just experimentally dropped one of the cloves like outside in the trailer of my door. My trailer's plugged into their house. And it's sprouted up and it looks so I'm going to take that out and I'm going to put it in a dish and grow it in the trailer. And that'll be something I can sit next to. Yeah, absolutely. And it's again, they can be little things. There are things that if you're feeling like if you're separated, you're away from a loved one and you're feeling disconnected, make sure you're putting a picture of them where you can see them, or, light a candle. If you're worried about somebody you care about, light a candle in front of the picture, and just take a moment, and sort of channel some thought that way. Prayer is really, whatever people's denomination, or if they're not, religious, I don't consider myself religious, and prayer is just another form of meditation, right? So the Insight Timer, and I know there's like the Calm app and Headspace, Insight Timer has, and all of this is, free. You can do a paid version of it, but they have these wonderful guided meditations that are even specific to COVID. Like you find, they have thousands and thousands of different practitioners, and you find a voice you like. It can be, they have men, they have women. You find something, you can do 5 minutes, you can do 45 minutes, you can find your time. And you can save them as favorites, but you can also do it with just music in the background. They can do chimes. You can really set it up in a way that feels good for you because we're all unique in how we respond. Walking meditation is another thing, but it still is just a way for you to notice that your thoughts are not you, right? They're just passing through. Right?
Yeah. Let them go. Right.
It's your thoughts about the thing. Yeah. Cause it's like all of those things have happened. There's the surgery, there's the illness, there's the sale being held up, there's the move, all of those things. You're experiencing your thoughts about them, but in and of itself, they're just a thing. It's a move. One person could be like, I'm so jazzed about this move. While another person would be like, oh, I left all of it, and that is what colors the experience, right?
So much.
It's just so much about our perspective of it. And it's not about turn that frown upside down. It's not about like coming up with a manufactured perspective because your body knows it's baloney, right? So it's about noticing the perspective you're in. Like if I can ask you, and you can choose any one of them, but like pick one of the things that you've been concerned about, and what would you describe the perspective on it now?
Right now, I guess I'd say the surgery. I had open heart surgery, and and it all went great. I'm back to the gym doing all this stuff, but then I just started reading the news, and they were talking about this COVID. And I'd been a little under the weather also about this COVID attacking organs and things like that. And the heart being one of them. And I just started thinking, oh my God, because, and the illness that I had, it probably wasn't COVID, but it's resolving itself. It's pretty much resolved. But in my mind, I started going towards, oh, is that going to be in me? Is that going to my heart? Because I just had this surgery. So I was sort of obsessing about that.
It probably doesn't help that, I just keep reminding Marty to make sure his will's in order.
Yeah.
And that you're the beneficiary. You're like, hey, don't forget about me, bud.
They're at least getting a hot tub out of me if I die. I'm going to carve out my estate a piece of that. So.
Well, so for an example, and please don't go anywhere that you're not comfortable with, but in that space of, I just had open heart surgery, and there's this unknown, unseeable, virus that's going around, and it takes 14 days sometimes before it shows up. And, I would make up that that's a pretty vulnerable place to be. But so when you're in that perspective of like, what would you call it? Like if you had to name it, would you say, you're afraid?
I'd say fear. I'd say fear.
So when you're in a fearful place around this, how would you describe the energy of it? Like physically, if there was a color associated with the weight, like raining.
No, exhausting.
Right? Did you say graining?
No,
exhausting.
I said draining, but I meant, exhausting.
Oh, draining, yeah.
Just exhausting.
So so when you think about the heaviness of that, right? It's exhausting, it's draining. The fear, it's almost like pulling life force out of you, right? You're literally being drained by this fear. And so when you think about that perspective and how motivated you are to do anything or to be, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you? Like where do you put yourself when you're feeling fearful?
Oh, not 3 maybe. I mean, not highly motivated. It's a terrible cycle, as you know. Doing this kind of counseling all the time, it's a terrible cycle. I mean, it just feeds on itself, and then usually for me, when I have these things, whatever it is, I'll end up I'll end up snapping out of it, and it's usually exercise or something like that. But kind of being sick, then the gym was always my place to go to for solitude. Not just the woods, but like exercise was something really helpful for me. And even that's sort of an extra challenge now. I mean, yeah, sure, I could go out to the garage and get down and do push-ups with the boys, and I will once my lungs feel really, really solid again. But, in that interregnum, I've got to maybe sit next to that garlic plant and turn the red lights on. I don't know.
Yeah.
And just heal.
Well, so here's an example. So here, that's an energy. So if we were actually doing, you could actually move yourself. So part of this is like, if you're ever feeling stuck, like let's say you're sitting at a table and you're feeling heavy and you're feeling stuck, sometimes just moving your location, sometimes moving to stepping outside or, moving to another part of the trailer can shift the energy, right? It shifts what you're looking at. But so if you moved yourself and you were thinking, what's another perspective that you might hold? And if it's hard for you to imagine for yourself, imagine if it was a buddy who was in the same situation. So think about what else is available here. So you've had this thing, you're on the other side of it. What's something else that's also going on, that's also true, that feels, just a different perspective on. Yeah,
I can walk right into the house and I'm among people who love me and care for me and put up with all my shit, and that feels good. I don't think they really realize the impact, because I am probably in one of the worst places I've ever been psychically, and if not for them, I'd probably, like I said, I'd be pawing at the air at some cabin somewhere in the woods writing a manifesto.
I love it. I think AJ said that there's actually like a cable that's attaching you to them. Like there's a plug that's running into the house.
Oh, right? Yeah. It's an umbilical cord.
Unseen connection. Yeah, that you're, so, the way that so if you were to describe that, is it like being tethered? Is it like, how would you describe that connection that able to walk into this home with people that you love, and
I describe it
during
as
this time,
I describe it as nourishing.
Nourishing.
Yeah.
So when you think about being nourished, like, how does that feel?
Feels great.
Where fear is draining.
Yeah.
This is like, yeah. So when you're in a place of nourishment, when you're feeling connected and you're feeling like you have a place to go, that you're not alone, that there's a warm embrace, right? This familial embrace that's there for you. How does that feel? Like, if you were checking in and scanning your body and going, like, how motivated do you feel when you're in a nourishing place?
Oh, it's a complete 180. I feel super motivated. It just changes everything.
Yeah. And so this practice is like, and then there might be like 12 other perspectives or 2 other perspectives that you sit in and you go, oh, I'm on the other side of this. And it's really redefining how I spend my time, or it's really bringing meaning, or like whatever those things are. And then you notice that thought and how it feels. And you go, how motivated am I from here? And then you can choose from that place. Now, when you're in it, when you're really in it, this isn't about like, snap out of it, Marty. It might be after you've had sort of a down experience, or it may be AJ going, hey man, are you okay? And you can sound it out. But just noticing the shift from fear and draining. But it's also true that there's nourishment and connection. And it's like, oh, that's there too. And if I'm leaning into that, I feel lighter and I feel more connected. That's a gift, right, to you, and that it reorients your energy. And then you're like, oh, and that's how quickly things can shift.
That's
just
awesome.
Where you're putting attention.
And I hope all this free counseling is helping our listeners too. So,
well, I think that it's really, what I was just thinking, listening, to all this, is that I do think at this time when people are feeling a wide range of things, and honey, you can chime in and what you've generally seen out there and what you've heard from people in this particular time in our lives, in our collective lives. But, just like years ago when I was in a time of crisis, a friend of mine, very talented actor, she told me, right now, you need to get out there and audition more than you ever have. You need to be creative. And it was the last thing I wanted to do, but she was right. Mm-hmm. It was a time where I needed to be creative. And I think that doing, the most resonant way to be creative is to be vulnerable. And so I think what you're doing right now, Marty, and just within doing this podcast, this is an act of vulnerability, this conversation you're having. And I think it is really valuable for you, and possibly for somebody who's listening who may be struggling in a similar way. But it's also valuable for you. And it's a real act of creativity, of vulnerability, to sit here and have this performative medium, this podcast, but to do it in such an open way of talking about some of the things that are most vulnerable for you. It's brave.
It's modeling for others. It's giving permission to yourself, but also permission to others, which I think is really important. I know there are 2 things. I had these big lessons that, like, when you're sitting in circle and sometimes you feel called to share, and you think like, oh, who am I? I don't want to take up space, or nobody else. This is so unique to me. Nobody else is feeling like this. It's like, no, you'd be surprised that when you're speaking, you're actually speaking to and for others. There was this example. So this is when I was still doing my training, and somebody was, visibly upset. They were crying and they were having, a real moment. And we always had boxes of tissues around, and I reached for the box of tissues to put in front of them, pretty chuffed that I was so helpful. And at the end of this, our leader said, hey, don't do that. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And it stopped them from having their experience. She's like, they're perfectly capable of asking for what they need, to be able to ask for a tissue or to be able to reach for it themselves. But it's almost like by pushing that box of tissues, I could be interrupting what was happening. Like, oh, here, take care of that, And it was a big aha for me. And the reason I'm sharing it is that so often we feel like we need to fix things. Like in coaching work, I'm not here to fix anyone. No one is broken. Like, Marty, there is nothing wrong with you. there are things that are working for you that are not working for you. And so this is all about trying out tools or finding things that just are more resonant for you, that get you in a groove. But when we're listening, and I would say for people who are, quarantining with other people, or if you're, on your own and you're reaching out for other people, letting people share what's here for them without trying to be like, oh, don't you worry, we're going to get out of this. Like, let them have their feeling and the space for it. And I think it can be very uncomfortable for us. We're not brought up, at least many of us aren't, being with discomfort, pain, loss, grief. Those things can be very uncomfortable. And so we just want to fix it. We want to make it better, when really, if you just sit with somebody and go, I don't know what that feels like, but it sounds really hard. And I'm here with you. And what a gift that is, to just be witnessed.
And heard, right? To feel heard.
Yes, just to be heard. And that, you don't have to clean it up or make it. And you want to make sure that the people that you share with are people that you have an established connection with. There's a difference between sharing vulnerably and then sort of just blurting all over someone who might not be able to hold it, which could create something else. There's no harm. We're all human. We're all here winging it. So I want to just sort of underscore something. Our language matters. The words that we use, and I think so often we're not really aware of how we're referring to things, or we just say it kind of because it's just rote.
Yeah.
And maybe that this is true for your experience, but like obsessing about the pollen. I hear a little bit of judgment in that, like you're somehow spinning out. And even if that may be true, like you're really putting some attention, like if you thought, I'm really concerned about the pollen, or I'm really, whatever those words might have a different energy to it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a connotation that we have about obsessing, like somehow what you're doing isn't, correct for you. And again, I'm just using that as an example. I don't have to be right about that. But in general, when we think about the language that we use, like I'm dragging myself to work.
It's powerful. Words are powerful. Words mean something. Think about how you put things. Think about how the words you're choosing, and think about the fact that the words you're choosing are telling the listener more than you may think you're telling them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the meaning under the meaning. And, but even energetically, I think that we get in the habit of sort of they're like throwaway words. But when we really stop and hear them back, we notice like, oh, when I say that word, like I feel a heaviness or I feel a tension. One of the great things you can do if you're, especially during this time, but just in general, if you're feeling a little disoriented, to be able to check in and do like a body scan, like, oh, noticing, yeah, my shoulders are kind of tight. Yeah, I'm feeling the shoulders are tight. And then sort of, go from the head down or from the feet up and just notice what you're feeling, right? Like where there's tension, because your body is telling you something. Maybe it's telling you that you slept a little funny, or it could be like you're feeling tension and your shoulders are up under your ears. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. So there's a lot of immediate response. And so sometimes when we say a word like, oh, I'm dragging myself to work, our body responds. Like it's like, oh, the heaviness, I'm dragging. And then all of a sudden you're walking slowly, you're dragging yourself. And so imagine when you get to work, even if it's just, commuting to the next room, there's this like quality of like you're dragging something heavy. Something that I also want to, offer up, it's a really quick drop in when you're feeling like, let's say you're spinning out or you're noticing that you're feeling a little disengaged or a little anxious, is drop in to what are 3 things in this moment I'm grateful for? And it's like, oh, I'm so grateful I have a roof over my head, or I have a family that I can reach out to, that I have my health, that I have my dog, that I have food in my cupboard, like whatever those things are. Oh, that I got tickets, next year to see whatever. Or I had this experience. But a gratitude practice brings us into the present. It drops us in and anchors us, even for just a moment. It's like, oh yeah, I'm worried about all those things, but this is what I'm really grateful for in this moment.
That's really good advice, honey. And it's something, it's so easy to do on your own. If you can get past the barrier of, I don't feel like doing this right now. There are times where I'm feeling negative and I don't feel like listing what I'm grateful for. There's so many things I'm grateful for, but God damn it, I don't feel like it right now, but getting over that hump, getting over that barrier and realizing that, again, you aren't your thoughts, you aren't your mind.
There is, and I also kind of want on the other side. So you have gratitude practice, the ways to get in the body, and then there's also this kind of really delicious indulgence where it's like when you're mad now, and I mean in a safe environment, not where you're going, and lashing out at anybody, but kind of just how kids have temper tantrums and they throw themselves on the ground. Like if you're really feeling crappy, it's like, sorry, I just screamed into your mic.
No, you're
but
good.
like just sort of, like let it out, like have a tantrum. Like if you're angry at somebody and it's just kind of I just want to, you write down all the terrible, awful, and then you burn it. Then you rip it up because it's not for them. But it's like getting it out or just almost indulging it, like having a pity party. But you set a timer and you're like, I am going to indulge this. I'm going to be pitiful for 15 minutes. I'm going to be poor me and just let it rip. I mean, just go over the top with it. And then, because sometimes I think we try to suppress things or like, oh, I'm bigger than this. I don't need it. I shouldn't. But it's really just kind of a lingering thing. Also moving your body. Like you can do exercise, but then if you're standing in place, you just shake one arm. And then you shake the other one, and then you shake your leg, and then the other leg, and just sort of like shake your whole body. And it's sort of releasing all of that energy that's just swirling.
Well, honey, is there anything, any kind of it's a time of uncertainty. I think one of the biggest certainties is we don't know. We don't know what's coming down the road and what things are going to look like. But it can also be a time for opportunity and maybe for discovering resiliency within ourselves. We can look back on this time and be really proud potentially of how we handle it as individuals, as communities, as friends and family. I want to be respectful with your time. You've already given us so much of it, but what would you leave us with?
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. I think what I find is that what each individual person can do is like whatever you're experiencing, either with your people or on your own, or notice what you're yearning for. Like what are you hungering for, and to be able to lean into that. Meaning, like if you're feeling alone and you want connection, don't worry about what other people have going on. Like reach out. Don't assume things. Like make connections. Find the things that are going to fill your time in a way that feels really good, right? So I would say during this time, how you want to show up is like remembering we've never known. Like there's never been certainty. We just thought there was.
Right.
So if we're in a place of catastrophizing or worrying about the future, another way to spin it is like, what do I want the future to look like? If I could design this, what would I like? What would I want to be different in my life? What would I like to have more of? And to just be in more of a creative energy, I think what you're pointing us to is that there's the fearfulness of like, the unknown. Oh, what could it be? What could it be? Versus, what could it be? What is it that I am missing most? What am I most looking forward to? How do I want to connect? What is it that I want to, what energy, if we're imagining that this is a soup, right? And we're all putting in our ingredients, like what do we want to bring to the space? What would we be proud of, as you said? I think it really is just an orientation about, it's not denying the anxious feelings. It's about grounding, getting clear, and then just not going too far out in the unknown, but to reach out and go, okay, what could this be? What's possible? Yeah. I love the line, like dwell in possibility. It's the tagline for my work. Dwell in possibility, because anything's possible. Who knew that this was possible? Right. Who knew that the whole globe would, for terrible reasons, but that we're all experiencing the same unknown. in a way that we had never done before. That not in my lifetime.
It's amazing. It's amazing to think about.
Pretty unifying.
Yeah. It
Honey,
certainly highlights our humanity.
That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And for sharing yourself with us. We really appreciate it. The book you referenced, Radical Wholeness, it's Philip Shepard, in case anybody is interested.
Yes.
And if anybody's interested in reaching out to you, honey, how can they get a hold of you?
My website is www.honeytrabitz, HoneyTrabitz.com. And there's a little form there that you can reach out. I always give an hour chemistry session, so it's complimentary. It's just to sort of test out and see what the people are looking for, and if there's a good fit, and I can always give referrals. But and especially at this time, if anyone might not have the resources and they're just looking for someone to connect with or sound something out, I'd be more than happy, to give an hour to spend time and maybe share resources or anything that might be grounding for you. Happy to. That's
amazing, honey. And just so you know, and our listeners know, we never do that. It's not, it's not about, give us your job website and how to generate business for you, but you're out there helping people. And I think you're a really special person. You leave people better than how you found them. And it's a goal of mine to encounter people in the same way. So I love you. And I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks so much for everything, honey. Yeah,
thank you.
It was wonderful. And thanks for all the help and good advice.
Have a wonderful afternoon, honey. Enjoy the weather.
Too. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, we will soon.
All right.
Bye, honey.
Bye-bye. Wow, that was pretty awesome, man.
That was good, man.
Didn't make it meaning to be up, make it all about me, but
no, but listen, there was a flow.
Yeah.
And she hit on so many things, notes that I had of things to ask her about. Mm-hmm. She hit on them anyways. Like I didn't need to bring it back around to it would have been forcing the issue. She was already hitting on them, and it became organically a real thing.
Yeah.
And again, like I think that you are really generous and brave in participating in that the way you did, because there's a deep vulnerability in that act. From a creative standpoint, it makes me really happy because you opened yourself up in a way that taps into the most resonant experiences for everyone else.
All right, brother.
All right, dude.
Out.
Later.